That's why it's very important that you build a steady foundation, because when life starts lifing, like people like to say, when
Yeah,
life
life.
starts lifing, if you don't have a foundation that's built on things outside of outer appearances, then your house will fall. Welcome to For Lifelong Love Lessons with Vernice
And Erica.
Seriale. So we're gonna call this 4L. So you got to put your 4Ls up. So a little bit about us before we get started, because we think background is very important in understanding our journey. I come from a household where my parents were married a long time. My father passed away. I have siblings. I have three brothers and one sister, and we always had a house full of people where I grew up. No one was a stranger to us. We always kept people at our home.
I am an only child. I am the poster person for only children. I love being an absolute only child all by myself. Everything under the Christmas tree was all for me. I didn't have to share until I got married.
She had her own TV, all of that, but we had to share everything growing up. So, more about us. We've been married for 28 years.
We're pastors.
And before you go on with talking about pastors, so we are pastors of a church, but we want you all to know that we're going to be real. We'll be transparent. We're not going to preach to you all
At all.
because marriage it's a real thing, and we've had some struggles. We've had some successes, but we've also had struggles in our marriage, and we want to be transparent because we want to help you all understand how to navigate through this life in marriage and have a lifelong marriage.
Right.
So we're also parents. We have kids.
We have
I
three.
let her talk about the kids.
We have three
It's
kids.
her thing.
One. Okay. One daughter, two sons. Our daughter is 26 years old. She is married. She graduated from University of Houston undergrad, graduated from University of Houston grad, and now she is a, what is she?
Athletic trainer.
I was about to say a sports medicine manager. I'm sorry. She is an athletic trainer at a high school doing something she's loved since she was 11 years old. Our oldest son is 25 years old. He has his undergrad from Clark Atlanta University, and he also has his master's from Clark Atlanta University, an MBA, and now he is trying to start his career with coaching basketball in college. And then our youngest son is 24, and he attends Texas Southern University, and he is going for his master's degree as well.
And he is our producer of 4L. So he's our manager. He's behind the camera right now, but he's navigating through. Oh, shoot. Well,
Life happens.
that's my mom calling me right now, so I'll send her the voicemail. Mom, sorry about that, but we're in the middle of something. So let me put my phone on silent right here. So some years ago, when we first got married back in 1996, we decided that, or we had some ideas about having a married couples TV show or something, a talk show. And it never happened. We wrote down a lot of ideas. This way before podcasting was even a thing. We wrote down a bunch of ideas because we had a group of friends who were young in marriage and we realized that people were facing the same issues. As a man, I realized I was not alone. And I believe as a female, she recognized that she was not alone as well.
Correct.
So 22 years later,
Here we are now
here we are with this
our first
podcast.
podcast.
So the goals of this will be to help you all to understand that you're not in this alone. The things that you're facing in marriage, people have already faced it before
And mastered it.
and mastered it, and we're successful. We have friends who, one of my friends' parents were married for 70,
50. Oh, no, the older, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody was married 70 years.
like 70 some years. That's till death do us part. So that is the goal of our podcast is to introduce you all to some strategies, some ideas that can help you to love for a lifetime. And in this day and time, I think it's very important that we share these strategies and things that we can do to make our marriages successful.
Now we are going to talk about the when we first met, or actually how we met, and then our first impressions of one another. So back in January of 1993, a long time ago, what, 32 years? I was a freshman at Prairie View A&M University, and Vernice was a senior. And I had a friend that came to me. Let's just be honest. So I was complaining. You know how you are when you're 18 years old and everything's not going your way. I was complaining, and she was like, "Well, Erica, I have somebody I want you to meet." I'm like, "Do we have friends? What are you talking about?" And she's like, "No, I have a guy I want you to meet." And I'm thinking, okay, well, I have a boyfriend. I don't know if she was like, "Girl, you complaining entirely too much. I got somebody that you need to meet." Ta-da! So we get on the phone, and I think we were on the phone 2.5, maybe even 3 hours, and it was a great conversation. Honestly, when we would go to where we would go eat, it was called Alumni Hall, and we would go to alumni, and it would be probably 15 to 20 of us, big group of freshmen, and we have most of us knew each other from high school. And then we met, somebody else had a roommate, this, that, and the third. And so we'd all get together as this big, huge group. Everybody had to do their makeup. You had to look cute when you went to alumni. So we get there, and we just having a good time. We having a blast. And so, yeah, my friend was like, "You need to actually meet this guy." And I'm thinking, but no, and everybody knew I had a boyfriend. And she was like, "I'm not worried about your boyfriend. I have somebody that I want you to meet." So in steps Bernice. And I'll let you tell him what happened the day we were supposed to meet in
Oh,
person.
okay. So this how it happened. This is the way it is. So I told my friend he had a girlfriend, which was her friend. I was like, "Hey man, I don't have nobody to talk to. I need a girl that I can talk to. I need somebody to talk with." So they put us on the phone. So that night we stayed on the phone, like she said, maybe about 2 hours. So we decided, well, let's meet. Well, I don't know if it was your idea to meet or if it was my
It
idea
was yours.
okay. So I said, let's meet. So I told my homeboys, I said, "Hey, look, let's go to alumni." I didn't tell them why because I didn't want them to clown me. So I didn't know her from anybody. All I knew was the conversation we had. So we get to alumni, and when I saw her, she told me what she had on. I told her that I didn't know what I was going to wear because I didn't know what I was gonna walk into.
And back in the day, my outfits and wardrobe was planned like 2, 3 weeks in advance. So I knew
So
what I was wearing.
so I see her and I'm like, oh, she got a boyfriend.
But I told
And
him the night before.
yeah, but I this was like a serious boyfriend because I would see them together all the time, and I always thought she was very attractive, but she had a boyfriend. So I decided that I wasn't going to say anything because she had a boyfriend. And so I called her the same night, and she's like, "Hey, how you gonna call me after you didn't show up?"
Didn't say a word, left me hanging. What are you doing? I was ready to hang up the phone, but I didn't.
But I tell you what though, this is what my takeaway is from that. That initial conversation that we had was a great conversation.
Yeah.
We talk about first impressions. It wasn't her looks, although she's very beautiful. It wasn't her looks. It was the conversation that sold me. My wife likes to watch this thing called Love Is Blind, and I look at it with her sometimes. And for me, I can say that Love Is Blind because that initial conversation, she had me sold until I saw that she had a boyfriend. But then I guess we worked through that as well. But that first impression for me was that conversation, and I think we shared a lot of things that night that said that our goals aligned, what we're looking for in life, it all aligned in one night. So if it's such thing as first impression, love at first sight, that's what it was for me. And just reflecting back on the 28 years that we've been together 31, 32, 32 years. Reflecting back on that, I can truly say that it's been a blessing in my life. we've evolved and grown in so many ways. She liked to say that I met her when she was a teenager.
Yeah. So I've known him my whole entire adult life. We've been together since I was 18.
And reflecting back on it, I can say it's truly been a journey. We've had some victories, and we've also had some losses in our marriage. And we've evolved, we've matured in our roles and responsibilities as a husband and a wife, and just as human beings. We didn't stay the same. We've evolved, but there's some things that we can reflect back on that led us to this time, and that's why I'm glad that we didn't do it
When
22
we
years
thought to
ago.
do it, yeah.
We didn't do it, and it came to this point where our sons and our daughter was encouraging us to do this because time evolved, and as time evolves, things change, and we recognize some things in our marriage from a health perspective that changed that kind of helped.
So back in 2003, actually it started in 1999 when we had our first son. When I returned back to work, I was working downtown for an energy company, and I was walking from the parking garage down to my building, and on the way walking down the hall, in the tunnel, the famous tunnel downtown Houston, I was walking and I heard this loud pop. And I'm looking around like, what was that? Oh my gosh, what happened? And nobody else was looking around. It was just me. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. You guys didn't, nobody else heard this. What is going on? So I didn't want to panic, especially because I looked like I was the only person that was thinking or had heard the sound. So I just kept walking. And um, later on, I started feeling a little bit of tingling, but I didn't think anything about it. And then in 2003, it like got way worse, and it wasn't hurting or anything, but I just my left side I was tingling from the top of my thigh all the way down to my toes, and it would come and go and come and go, and I was like, what is going on? And we went to the doctor, and they performed an X-ray, and in the X-ray, it came back negative, no pinched nerve, nothing was going on. We can't find anything, and I'm like, okay, fine. And so later on, then it got to the point of I'm like, okay, well, something is happening because it does not stop. It starts and stops, but it has not gone away. And sometimes they'll say, oh, it's okay, it'll subside. You won't have to deal with it anymore. It's not a big deal. Well, I read an article on Tamia, the artist that is married to Grant Hill, and what she was describing in the article, I was like, you know what? That sounds just like how I feel. She was like, I have on a pair of jeans, but other than I knew I put the jeans on earlier in the day, I didn't know what else was going on. And so when I read what she had to say, I was like, okay, this sounds just like me. I called my husband and I was like, Vernice, I think I have multiple sclerosis. And he was like, well, what makes you think that? And I told him Tamia had it and what she described in the article. And we went from there. I went to my primary care. They sent me to a neurologist. The neurologist performed an MRI or ordered an MRI. Came back. I did, in fact, have multiple sclerosis. And that was kind of where our journey, when you take those vows of sickness and in health, that's when it kicked in for us, in sickness and in health. And I'm not gonna lie, I was scared to death because I was like, okay, is this something I'm gonna die from? Is this something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life?
And this is why
there a
we
cure?
know
Looked it
that
up. There was no cure.
over time,
but they did have,
things change.
different medications that you
People
could choose
change.
from.
You're not going to
And we
remain the
talked about it.
same.
We discussed it.
That's why it's very
I'm just
important
grateful that
that you
like I
build
said, I was diagnosed in 2004.
a steady
and it is
foundation.
2025, and
Because when
still
life
doing
starts
good for me.
lifing,
And there
like
are
people like to
hard-
say,
there
when
are
life starts lifing, if you
very
don't have a foundation that's built on things outside of outer appearances, then your house will fall. And it's not just about sickness, it's about financial struggles that we've been there. We've been through financial struggles. We've been through sickness, still facing it right now, raising children in a marriage. So it's just so many things that says that you need a steady foundation. Because if you don't have that foundation, your marriage will fall.
And that's where buildings are started, from the foundation. So now we will begin discussing foundation of forever. You know, we already talked about what foundation is when you get ready to build a house, how your foundation needs to be strong. So now we're going to hit on some key points of foundation of forever.
So as we talk about these things, we're going to debunk some of the things that people say about marriage.
The myths.
Yeah, because some of it is not accurate at all. Now, just because we say these things, it does not mean that you have to tailor your marriage to be our marriage, because your marriage is your marriage. You have to put in the effort in order to make your marriage successful. And believe me, it's not easy. It is a lot of work. So here we go with some things that we believe will be some foundational things that can help you in your marriage. So the first thing is contract versus covenant.
What the difference is.
So,
understanding the difference.
Yeah. So a contract is typically between two parties or two people. And the contract is a if then, whereas a covenant is an agreement between two people and God. So
and
contract,
regardless, in the covenant, you're saying that you're going to do your part no matter what.
So this agreement is between husband and wife, as well as with God. So that's very important. So contract. The reason why we say it's not a contract is because a contract is an if versus then. If you do this, then I will do that. Right. You agree?
Correct. If you buy this car from us, then we'll give you the car if you agree to pay us this amount of money.
So our marriages are not if then, because if it is if then I may not perform because she didn't perform. Right. So the first thing that you have to realize is that your marriage cannot be based on a contract, because it is not a contract. When you say I do, you're saying I do to the person, which I said I do to Erika, and I said I do to God. So it's not just about me anymore. It's about all of us in this relationship. You cannot have a successful marriage basing your performance on the other person's performance, because sometimes that person may not be able to come through.
And then think about it. There are bad days for everyone. You're not going to have a great day 365 days for 65 years. Sometimes you have a bad day, but that does not mean you stop being the wife that you said you were going to be. That does not mean you stop being the husband that you said you were going to be. Some days they're just bad days, but you still kick in for that other person.
So one thing that we tell people, and just to be transparent, we do marriage counseling, we do pre-marriage counseling, and we do marriage counseling. We tell people that in the relationship, there are three entities. There's the husband, the wife, then there's God. So in this marriage covenant, I have to focus on my relationship with God while she focuses on her relationship with God. So as and my father told us this a long time ago, as we both focus on God, we're climbing up the side of that triangle or that mountain, because we're both heading towards God. The pinnacle of this is death do us part. So we're both climbing, we're building our relationship with God. So that's why it cannot be a contract, because we're constantly, remember we said that in the introduction, we said that we're constantly evolving, we're growing, we're getting better. So the more we focus on God and build our relationship, the closer we are getting to each other as well. See, God takes up a lot of space in the middle at the bottom. And believe me, he makes up a lot of space, especially in the beginning, but as we grow towards him. So in our marriage, yes, I do pray for my wife. I do pray for her based on what she's going through and what she's experiencing. But I also pray and ask God to make me the husband that I should be. I'm not praying for God to make her something. I'm praying for God to make me the husband that I should be.
And it works the exact same way for me. I'm praying for God to make me what I need to be in our marriage so that our marriage can be what it needs to be while he's doing his part. But I'm not relying on him to do his part. I'm just relying on God to help me do my part.
So the next thing that we would like to discuss is marriage being 50-50. There are a lot of people out there that will tell you that marriage is 50-50. You put in 50%, she put in 50%, and don't do more. Only do your 50%. That comes down from giving in a relationship. That's the finances and everything that people try to tell you, look, it's 50-50. But today, we want you to know marriage is not 50-50.
Not at all. It's 100-100. If you have 100 on today, you put in all of your 100. If he has 97, sometimes, like I said in the beginning, sometimes you don't have all of yourself. Sometimes you are having a bad day, but you do as much as you can, even on that bad day. And if your bad day says 50%, well, guess what? That actually is 100% because you may not be your whole total self on that day. But as long as you give as much as you can, as hard as you can, as long as you can on that day, you are doing your part.
So one thing that I can remember in our marriage is that I know this from our initial conversations when we first met. I was not looking for a housewife. I was looking for somebody who wanted to get out and work. So I met her at Prairie View A&M University. She was working on her degree. And the thing I asked her was, do you want to work? Because to survive nowadays, you need to have something. You need both people working. So she said yes. And so our marriage started off, we both worked in corporate America. And when she was diagnosed with MS, things changed. And for me, I'm used to, hey, suck it up. Let's get it done. Let's move on from it. I didn't realize what was really going on with her. And to be truthful, to be honest about it, it took me some years to really understand what she was going through. Because I kind of felt like MS is not something that you see. MS is something that happens over time. And she looked okay to me. She still was the same person. Everything seemed to be normal. And we treated as though. And I started noticing sometimes she'll be a little sluggish or slowful. And me not understanding, I'm telling her, no, come on, let's go, let's go. Like, for instance, we'll go to the amusement park with the kids, maybe Disneyland,
Right.
Disney World. And I'm like, come on, let's go. And she, no, I need to sit down and I need to take a break. And I'm like, what do you mean you need to take a break? We brought the kids here. We need to enjoy this. But I wasn't understanding how MS was affecting her. All of a sudden, her 100% was only 80%. But what I had to realize was that if 80% was all that she had, as long as she gave 100% of the 80%, that's what mattered. So in marriage, there are going to be times when you won't be able to give 100% of what you used to do. And when that happens, it's not time for you to jump ship, for your spouse to jump ship. I had to realize, she told me not too long ago, she said, Vernice, thank you for staying with me. And I'm like, what are you talking about, staying with you? That don't make no sense. Thank you for staying with me. And then when she started explaining that people leave their spouses when illnesses come upon them or when they can't be 100% of what they used to be. And I didn't think anything of it, but it also took me evolving and understanding that marriage is not 50-50. If I would give according to what she could give, then that would change the whole dynamic of our relationship and our marriage. So I had to realize that although she could not be 100% of what she used to be, it did not mean that I stopped being 100% of who I am.
And then even with, so to be fair to him, to be very honest, very fair, and like he said, very transparent, I hid a lot of things. I did not, because I'm the only child. I can suck it up. I can do whatever it is I need to do. Hey, I went to college by myself. I came in this world by myself. I played by myself when I was little. And so I was like, well, it's okay. I'll figure it out. I'll get it done because, yeah, marriage is till death do us part, through sickness and health, all that good stuff. But I was like, okay, no, I have to do everything I've been doing. I didn't realize why I was tired. I was like, okay, what is wrong? What is going on? But, and even though we had books to read about it, even though we had articles to read about it, to see where other people, how they felt about things, I was not listening to what those people said. I'm like, that's them. That's their life. I'll be fine for the rest of my life. Everything will be good. And then all of a sudden one day, it's like it dropped on me. And when I say dropped, I mean the illness dropped, and it like almost took me out. I went from accounting for 19 years, and then I started teaching school back in 2005. And then I was absolutely fine. I was going through my class, and we were having a great time. I want to say a couple of years later, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I was tripping over students. I was falling on students. I was going to the restroom and falling in there. I was not telling anyone anything. I was doing the absolute best I could. But I had to recognize that I did have someone that I could lean on. I did have someone that I could talk to, because by then he started understanding, what I was feeling. And some days I would come in and I would be limping a little more than other days. But when I recognized that my spouse, my husband, my best friend actually had my back, and through this whole sickness, I started to understand we were going to get through. MS was not going to overtake our marriage. We were going to overtake MS.
Right. And it called for me to step up in other areas and do things that maybe a husband might feel like I shouldn't have to do that. Well, when you make a covenant and you have that agreement with each other till death do us part, that means that you got to give all that you can. And I guess for me, it was, oh, this won't ever happen to us. You're young. You don't think anything will ever happen. But life happens. And when life happens, if you have grown accustomed to giving 100% of who you are in that marriage, every day of the marriage, then when life happens, it can try its best to knock you down, but you'll survive it. But I just think that, just looking at it, marriage is 100, 100. So I would challenge each of you to start giving 100% of who you are. And if it's a bad day, it's okay. We all have bad days. Definitely. I'm 54 years old now. I can't do the things that I used to do when I was 20 something, because times change, your lives evolve. But what I can do is give my wife 100% of who I am right now and today. So that's something that we want you all to take away today. 100, 100. There's something else we want to talk about is the word submission, because a lot of people don't like the word submission.
Especially women, especially this one. Because again, only child, submit to who? As long as I listened to my mama and my grandparents, I was good. I ain't have to listen to nobody else. And
she didn't want me drinking her orange juice.
Don't drink my orange juice. Don't drink my. We went to the grocery store. We bought everything that each other wanted. He'd run out of juice much quicker than me, and I'd walk in the kitchen. He's drinking my juice. I'm like, he done lost his mind. He's not supposed to be doing that.
So as pastors, the Bible does talk about submission in Ephesians chapter 5. It says that a wife should submit to her husband, and that the husband should love their wives and give their life just as Christ gave his life for the church. So those two things right there, those are very hard things. But if you read the verse before will tell you that submit one to another. So it's not just the wife that should do submitting,
Right.
it's the husband that should submit as well. And the one thing that I've learned over the years is that if I be the man that God desires me to be, I be the man that my parents raised me to be, and the man that God desires me to be, then I don't have to worry about my wife's response, because her response will be there because I'm that guy. So if you can focus on being that guy that God desires you to be, then it won't be a problem. There won't be a problem. I submit to my wife because she's a human being. It can't always be my way. And, we have a 95-5 rule anyway. We'll talk about that in another podcast. But submitting is not hard when we're both doing what God requires us to do.
Right. Because I'll be honest with you. Like I said, submission was hard. Just hearing the word and what I thought it meant. But when I found out and got closer to God and figured out what I was supposed to do as a wife, and I'm not saying the cooking and cleaning and all this stuff, because I'm not a cook. I bought my house because I love the kitchen, but I don't use it a whole lot. Let's be honest. He cooks a lot. But at any rate, I figured it was easy to submit to someone who is submitting to God. And he's not ruling over me.
Right.
He doesn't have an iron fist or a billy club or whatever, because again, as an only child, I'm gonna do what I want to do, but I have to respect my husband. And then the easy part is, what makes it easy to submit to him is the fact that he respects me as a person, as his wife, as the mother of his children, as a woman, period. He gives me all the respect I can possibly ask for. Sometimes he probably give me a little more than I deserve, because I know I can be a whole handful as an only child.
Two handfuls.
But okay, it's not that bad, I don't think. No, but seriously, in all honesty, I'm an only child. Again, I love it, or what have you. So I feel like it's much easier to submit to someone when they are showing you all the respect that you don't even deserve.
That's key, being able to submit to one another, and asking God to help you to be the husband that you should be and the wife that you should be. And when we go to God and we submit to God, we submit our will to his will, then God can help you to be that person. And it has nothing to do with who bosses whose decision it was. Sometimes it's her decision, and I'm not ashamed to say that. A lot of times it's her decision. But the one time that I do say, I don't think we should do that, it makes it a little bit easier, because I've respected her through the process. I don't go and do anything. If I'm going to spend over $20, I call and ask, can I spend the $20? And I'm not ashamed of saying that, because it works for us. So the next thing, the next thing that we feel like is a bit of a challenge is liking each other. So people get married every day and say that they love each other. Get married every day. They go to the courthouse, they go to church, they go everywhere and get married and say they love each other. And then maybe 3 months after that, I don't love that person anymore. And they get divorced. They're separated.
And like what I explained to him once before, to me, I'm not saying to everybody else, but to me, love is what caused him to propose. Love is what caused me to answer yes. What causes us to stay 28, almost 29 years,
watch this,
is the fact that we like each other.
That's key right there. Liking each other is key, because how can you live with a person that you don't like? So although my wife, like she said, she said one handful, I say she can be two handfuls.
Probably even three.
If I had three hands. But some of those things are things that I really like about her. She's a go-getter. She don't take no. Well, I won't say she don't take no, but she gonna get her point across, and that's very beneficial to me when we go and negotiate. So if we go negotiate for a car, I don't go in. I let her go in because she's gonna stay there until she gets the deal that she desires, and I just come back and say, hey, what the money look like? If it's numbers I don't like, I walk off, and when I come back again, the numbers are again. And if it's numbers that I don't like, she knows it's time for us to go. But if she's able to negotiate it, then we stay and we buy. But it's beneficial. So liking a person is very, very important, because if you're going to stay together, there must be some things that and I don't want to minimize love in this, because love is key. But liking each other, if you stop liking each other, that will lead you straight to separation and divorce court. So one thing that we do is we ask people, why do you want to marry the other person? And you have to write down so many reasons, and love can't be one of them, because those are the reasons why you want to be with that person. So I want to challenge you all today. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time at home, write down some things that you like about that person and start to visit those areas and bring that out of that person, because we got enough things to be mad about, upset about when life starts happening, things that we can't control. But things that we can control are the things that we like about each other. Exactly. So if you like a certain thing about your spouse, let your spouse know that, and that way they can start to exhibit that a little bit more in your day-to-day living. Liking is very, very important. Very. So the last point in building the foundation is, and the last one, but it's not the least one, is the top one. God must be the center of it all, of the relationship. You have to put God in that foundation, because with him, your marriage will last. It'll become impossible sometimes, but faith is very important, because with faith, we're able to go through a lot of obstacles. Right. Even dealing with multiple sclerosis that she's dealing with, we realized some miracles even with that. And just having faith in something bigger than us, right. Bigger than us. And it takes it away from being about me, and it takes away from being about her, and it makes it about God. Mm-hmm. And we've been through a lot of challenges in our marriage. We've been through a lot of down times, but by the grace of God, 28 years. 28
years. And I don't want you to think, first of all, I'm not about to feel like we have to explain everything, but I don't want you guys to take from this, oh, well, they've been through this. Oh my gosh, he cheated or she cheated. No, that's not what we went through. That's not what we're talking about. We're not just talking about multiple sclerosis, but we're definitely not talking about infidelity, although we do know it happens. I don't want anyone to walk away with going, oh my God, if you ever see him in public, oh my God, he cheated on her. Oh my God, she cheated. No, that's not what happened. When we talk down times, we're talking because of the nature of the job that he has. We are pretty much at the mercy of other people sometimes. And so that's what we're discussing. Sometimes bank accounts don't look the way you want it to look. And so that's what we're talking about. And that's just what happens in life. Even if you have a great job, sometimes you just overextend yourself, or better yet, interest rates go up. Economy falls apart. Anything happens. And so things that you cannot control come in, and that's what can destroy a marriage, because a lot of times people do say finances carry a big burden, but we figured out how to even go through one of our anniversaries and we were at a basketball game that somebody let us in for free with all three of our kids, and that's how we celebrated, I think, our 11-year anniversary at a basketball game in Pearland High School. But we had the time of our lives. The kids had no idea that we were quote unquote struggling. I thought I was supposed to get my check going into Christmas break from school, from the district. All of a sudden, the district, after years and years and years of giving us that check right before Christmas break, they were like, "Oh, we gonna wait till y'all get back." I was like, "Oh Lord, we just spent all the money from the first check I had." So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, life things that happen in life. I don't want you to think it's just infidelity, because that's not the only thing that can take a toll on a marriage.
Yeah, and it's just life period. Life period. So you may be dealing with infidelity. You may be dealing with financial struggles. You might be dealing with your kids. It could be a laundry list of things that comes against the marriage to try to drive a wedge in between. Because remember, you're growing together as you're growing towards God. And the enemy or the powers that be wants you to grow like this, away from each other. So it doesn't matter what it is. If you have faith and you build your relationship as a faith-based relationship, trusting and believing in God, then you'll sit back and realize, man, we've been through a lot of things. And in 28 years, we've been through a lot of things. We've had disagreements. Everybody's going to have disagreements when you have two people from different backgrounds, her being an only child and me being I have siblings. That whole juice thing got me in the beginning. So we had arguments about the juice. Don't drink my juice. Well, why not? It's our juice. It's in the refrigerator. It's our juice. But we've grown through it. And I want to say that it's our faith in God that allows us to realize it's not about me. It's about serving him. And it's about giving him all of who I am so that he can make me a better person for her.
And likewise, it's the exact same way. It was about me giving everything I had to God to ask him to make me a better person so I could be a better wife and better mother and help my husband through our marriage. Because everything was not just going to be his fault. Everything was not just going to be my fault. But we had to come to a time when we sometimes, even right now, almost 29 years, we still look at each other and go, okay, we just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Right.
We'll just come back to it later.
Right. When you get to be our age in marriage, it becomes about what you want to eat.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in another session. But that what you want to eat, it'll solve it won't solve every problem.
But it helps you move on to the next thing. You just come back 20 minutes later, it's like you want to eat. And I'm gonna say this one last thing before we go to a commercial break. You know how they had a joke, I guess, on Facebook where it was like sometimes spouses will come to each other and it's like, okay, I got to say something to just, get over this. And so somebody will come in and go, when you was in the kitchen, was the refrigerator still running? Like, was it still working? So sometimes we'll just come to, you still hungry? Because I'm hungry. Like, what we going to do? What we going to eat? So, yeah, sometimes we have to get to that point where it's like, all right, it's enough of that. Let's move on to the next thing, or just let's revisit it at a later date or a later time. But now, thank you for joining us for this first part. Now we're about to go to our commercial. 4L. All right, here are some of the key takeaways that we want you guys to take with you of Foundation of Forever.
These are some things that we would like you all to incorporate in your marriage or try out and see how it works for you. First
is put God at the center. Make sure he's at the center of every decision that you guys make for your marriage, make for your family. Make sure God is at the center, because as long as you're focusing on God, it brings you and your spouse closer together. Like we said, he's at the pinnacle and you're trying to reach him. So as long as you stay focused on him, it brings you and your marriage closer together.
Now, I would say a key takeaway today is you got to like each other. You got to.
Definitely.
You got to like each other. Write down some things that you like about your spouse. Share that with your spouse and challenge them to be what you like about them. And that's going to help you guys in your marriage.
And then another one is make sure you're submitting one to another. Again, like I said, he doesn't rule over me. I don't rule over him. But make sure that you submit one to another. And what that pretty much entails is make sure you're respecting each other in the marriage. He has a voice. I have a voice. We listen to one another, and then we submit to God. And that's what makes it easier to submit to one another. When you submit to God, it's like, all right, I know Sometimes I might be right, sometimes I might be wrong, but as long as we're submitting to God, He's going to bring us to the best decision that we can make for our marriage.
Last couple of things. Marriage is 100% of who you are every day, giving your spouse everything that you got every day of your life. And marriage is not a contract, marriage is a covenant. Those are the things that we discussed on today and we believe will be helpful in your marriage. Now, there are some other things like commitment, trust, communication. Those things will be discussed at later times. But by next episode, we'll do.
Here we go. Our next episode, Love is a Choice. Choosing each other every single day.
Every day.
Every day. If you don't, it kind of makes it difficult. You have to choose each other every day. So now we hope that you will follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe as well. We are for lifelong love lessons. For, not the number 4, not even spelled out FOUR. It's for FOR.
For lifelong love lessons
on all social media platforms. That includes Instagram, that includes TikTok, that includes YouTube. Please subscribe and like.
Thank you all for joining us on today for our very first podcast.
Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.